By default, the maximum number of MAC addresses that will be learned on a port security enabled interface is 1. Therefore, if there's going to be more than one device connected to that switch port, for example, if you have a phone connected to a PC or you have a VMware server connected to that port, then multiple MAC addresses will need to be learned. So you will have to change the maximum number of MAC addresses that are learned on that port. And you can do so with the switch port security maximum command. But by default, since it's 1, if you forget to change it, then you will have some type of violation occur because you've breached that maximum number. So let's say you had a phone connected and a PC connected. You need that maximum number set to 2. Let's say you had a VMware server connected, the host with 3 virtual machines. That's a total of 4 devices, meaning you're going to need 4 different MAC addresses, meaning that port better be configured for a maximum of 4. If they're not configured in that way in those instances, then we will end up in a situation whereby the violation will happen. So you can verify the maximum that is configured by looking at the output of show run. You can look at the output of show port security, as well as show port security, and in the specific interface that is configured for port security. So speaking of violations, there's 3 different violation modes. We have protect, restrict, and shutdown. With the protect violation mode, you will simply prevent the rogue devices with the rogue MAC addresses from accessing the network. However, it might not be a rogue device. What if the rogue device's MAC address was one of the MAC addresses that were learned within the maximum value range? Let's say you had a maximum value set to 2. So that rogue device's MAC address was learned before the legitimate device's MAC address was learned. Now it's the legitimate device that's going to be prevented from accessing the network when the violation occurs. The problem with protect violation mode is that there's no log messages generated. So you will have no idea that this is occurring because you're not being notified about it. So restrict does the same thing as protect by stopping the MAC addresses that have been learned above and beyond the maximum value that has been set. In addition to that, it's going to make sure that a log message is generated for you. So if I had the option between protect and restrict, I would go with restrict in that case simply because of the log messages that are generated. But let's say you are experiencing a violation, either protect or restrict. What are you going to need to do? Well, you're going to need to find out why that is occurring. So you want to determine, is it a rogue device out there that was connected to the port? Or maybe it's just the fact that we configured the wrong maximum value. And if that's the case, we either have to remove the rogue devices or fix the configurations. So we can identify the violation by looking at the output of show port security or show port security interface, and then specify the interface that we want to analyze for the port security configuration. And lastly, we have our shutdown violation mode. Now, the shutdown violation mode is the violation mode that is set by default. So if you don't change it, the port will be shut down if there's a violation. Well, not really shut down. It's placed in the air disabled state. So it's going to prevent traffic from coming in and out of the port for all devices that are connected to that port. So it's ceasing, preventing communication from occurring on that particular port. So in this case here, you are more likely, when a violation occurs, to realize that it's happening because users are going to be complaining they can't access the network. So legitimate users as well as those rogue users won't be able to access the network. Whereas with protect and restrict, well, if the legitimate users still accessing the port, that's fine. The rogue users being blocked, hey, it's working as it should. But if it's the other way around where the rogue users are still accessing the network and the legitimate users not, well, at least we're going to be notified with restrict via the syslog messages. But let's say the port's in the air disabled state. How will we know? Well, we can look at the output of show interface's status. It'll tell us that it's in the air disabled state. We can look at the output of show port security. We'll see there that the interface has been or is in the shutdown violation mode. And then with the output of show port security interface, we'll have the ability to verify whether we are in the secure up or secure down state. And it'll say secure down if the violation mode has been triggered. Now, how do we recover from this violation when it is shut down? Well, first and foremost, remove the rogue device or fix the configuration, because maybe we just configured the wrong maximum number for our ports. It's supposed to be 2, but we only configured 1. So we'll fix that particular issue, and then we got to bounce the interface. because the interface is air disabled. Manually recovering from the air disabled state requires you to type in shutdown to administratively disable it, and then type in no shutdown to re-enable that particular interface. And then everything will be back to normal as long as you removed the rogue device or fixed the configuration. Now, there's also the air disabled recovery feature. The air disabled recovery feature allows you to set a timer. And what will happen is the timer will count down once the violation occurs. So let's say you set it for 30 seconds. The timer starts counting down, and then once the timer expires, the switch will check to see if the problem's been fixed. If the problem's been fixed, then great, it'll automatically recover the port and bring it back up. However, if the violation still exists, it'll keep it in the air disabled state. So there's that option as well for dynamic recovery. But no matter what, whether you use dynamic recovery or static recovery, you still have to remove manually that offending device or fix the configuration.